Hello everyone, it's Mark and welcome back to our video newsletter. In this video I want to talk to you about how you can secure your loved one's release from a Baker Act facility. So there really are only two ways someone gets released. The first way they get released is that the facility decides to let them go. Now, we get a lot of calls from people who are stuck in Baker Act facilities and we're really good from getting them released. But sometimes facilities will release. Yeah, it's hard to believe, but sometimes the facilities actually do follow the law. They're allowed to hold a person up to, not 4, but up to 72 hours. And once the 72 hours ends, one of two things need to happen. They either need to release them, or they need to go to court and file a petition for involuntary placement and ask a judge for permission to hold them beyond the 72 hours. Now, there are a lot of facilities who respect the fact that there is statutory requirements for continued holding of somebody. So a lot of the facilities, once they get the person stabilized within the 72-hour window, are releasing them. And listen, I tip my hat to those folks, those individuals, those professionals, because that's what the law says. And if you can stabilize them within 72 hours and you let them go, hey, it's a great thing. The families need to understand, though, that if this is an ongoing problem, they're probably going to need to take, other actions to make sure their loved one doesn't get Baker Acted again. And I get calls all the time where a family's loved one has been Baker Acted. I mean, multiple times. I had a call from a woman actually in a facility who had been Baker Acted a dozen times over the years. That's frightening, okay? Because that person clearly needs help. So the first way that your loved one can get released is the facility lets the person go because they've done what needs to be done to stabilize them. The second way the person gets released is when we step in, is when a judge orders the person to be released. And so, what's happening, and I want to be clear here, we're talking about where there's abuse of the Baker Act, okay? Somebody had posted on Facebook, basically accusing me of being sort of anti-Baker Act. I'm not anti-Baker Act. When it's done right and when the law's followed, it's a really, really important and useful tool for saving somebody. Okay, it's designed for emergency stabilization. It's not a treatment statute. And when somebody needs emergency stabilization, then yeah, I'm all for the state stepping in and stabilizing the person so that they're safe and the people around them are safe. Okay, but what happens is that the statute gets abused. And it gets abused because the Baker Act facilities, which are agents of the state, are not being watched. They're not being monitored. And when your loved one gets taken to that facility, nobody else besides you knows they're even there. So who's counting how many hours they're there? Who's counting, how many times they've met with a clinician or how many therapy sessions they've been to? The medications they're being given, the medications they're being denied. Who's watching them? The simple answer is nobody. And that's where the abuse steps in. And so look, if your loved one is being held beyond 72 hours, okay, and the facility is not going to release them and they're not running to the courthouse to file the petition for involuntary placement, which they're supposed to do, then yeah, you're going to need a judge to order your loved one released. Now look, we handle tons of these cases. I handle them all over the state. And most of the time, once we step in, the facilities will capitulate. They'll allow your loved one to go because they know they've been caught with their hand in the proverbial cookie jar. They know they're violating your loved one's rights, and they know they shouldn't be doing that. So look, if the facility is not going to release your loved one, okay, and they're not going to follow the law and go to court and get a court order and permission to keep them, then yeah, we're going to need to go to court and get a judge potentially to order them released. Now, if you go to the Q&A section of the Baker Act Attorney's website, there's a ton of content out there. There are 2 videos that talk about the certain things that you should look for so that you can sort of get an idea as to whether or not the facility is going to release your loved one or not. Okay, there's 2 videos. One talks about, there's a number of different signs you can look for or indicia you can look for. It also talks about the one thing that I always see in every case we file, which is insurance. And so I would encourage you to go and look at those videos. But here it is. These are the 2 ways. Either they let them go or we force them to let them go. With that said, thank you again for the social media posts, the questions. I learn a ton more about the Baker Act just from the questions I get. If you send me a question, I'm happy to do a video on it. I think that families need to have this information and they need to get it for free. They shouldn't have to call me to get it. With that said, take care, be well, and stay safe.